Good evening, everyone. It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. It's Tuesday night. It's Rethinking Church night. Y'all know what we do. The Rethinking Church Virtual Summit coming up July 14th, 15th, and 16th. That's only 8 days away from the virtual summit that's coming up. And as you can see behind me, we got a power pack 3 days for everyone that is registered. And please, if you haven't registered, which you already should, but we want to get even more of y'all registered, you want to go to the rethink. You can go in the group here, the rethinking church strategies.com and register. And if you're in the group, you can actually, there should be a link there. We'll make sure that the link is actually along with us here as well. In the comments sections, we'll pin it so that you can actually do that too. But tonight, we have another one of great speakers, facilitators that has joined us, along with our great leader, Reverend Lakesha Womack, who is with us again. So we want to thank her for joining us. But we have, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself too. But I'm gonna say her name first. Dwalunda Alexander, and that's Elder Dwalunda Alexander. So we want to welcome her to our Tuesday night talk, Rethinking Church Tuesday talk with our presenters and authors. So, Elder Alexander, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. How are you? How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. We want to first thank you for joining us this evening to come and just give us a sure come and chat with us just a bit and give us some excitement about what we have coming up in 8 days and just the phenomenal things that will be going on over those 3 days at the summit. So I want to let you start off just by introducing yourself to everyone. Tell us a little bit about who you are, the things that who you are, your background, and everything like that, and then we'll get into our conversation about rethinking church and the great part that you'll be playing in joining us next week.
Okay, awesome. Well, I first and foremost thank you for having me this evening. I am super excited to be a part of this talk, and then I am so excited to be a part of the virtual summit on next week. Again, I am Elder Dwalunda Alexander. I am um, a member and the preaching associate of Greater St. Stephen First Church in Fort Worth, Texas. I reside here with my husband, Jonathan, and we do ministry in an exciting and amazing way. I have been dubbed something that I was scared of originally, but now I'm embracing it more here these days as a womanist preacher, a womanist theologian. I am recently submitted and finished my DMin in preaching. My project is a womanist interpretation of the Book of Ruth. So looking forward to that official title of doctor come August 31st. And so
Awesome.
I'm super excited about the things that the Lord is allowing me to do. And then I am also the founder of Preaching in Purple, and that is my personal ministry platform. And I'm looking forward to some things that are in the works for birthing this year and in the coming year. So very excited to be here.
Congratulations, first of all, because I know that you all that have furthered your education and going to get your doctorate, that is a serious accomplishment. So so we will already call you doctor
Thank you, thank
because
you, thank you.
you've earned it. At this
Listen,
point,
blood,
you've
sweat,
earned
and
it.
tears. Blood, sweat, and tears.
All that work you put in, yeah, you better put them two letters in front of my name right about now. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. I love it. So, but congratulations to you, and we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. We really do appreciate it. You joining us, and I wanted to start off. I'm gonna actually continue the conversation that you all were having prior to prior to us coming on live, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Just about, I want you to talk about your facilitation for Rethinking Church, the part that you're going to be playing in next week. If you can talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about what people can expect from, because you all are doing one of the cohorts. So I mean one of the coffee chats.
Copy.
So which is a little bit different. So let's talk a little. I want you to talk a little bit about that and how you are. And then Reverend Keisha, I want you to talk about what made you think of that idea. And then we'll get into what people can expect with the coffee chat or with the coffee chats.
Alrighty. Well, I am participating in next Friday morning's coffee chat, where the conversation and topic, of course, women in ministry and how the voice of women in ministry is contributing to shifting cultural norms, impacting cultural norms. And oh my goodness, as someone who is celebrating come October, it will be uh, gosh, 2002. So it will be 19 years since I accepted my calling. And this year makes um, 15 years as a licensed minister and then also 12 years ordained. So, as someone who brings those experiences from all of those years and that time to that conversation next Friday, along with the phenomenal Reverend Dr. Kelly Farrell, my God. Uh, but as someone who is bringing the experiences from the preaching ministry, from being executive assistants, from being a part of church plants, from established ministry work, and how I've seen the shift happen over these years. The conversation is something that I think is needed for one, because we haven't sat down, I don't think, across the board and had a conversation about how just even in this past year, year and a half with the COVID pandemic and churches closing down from their regular settings, what that has really looked like and meant for women in ministry.
Mm.
And I know that Reverend Lakeisha is going to share some things, but she said something that pricked my mind and my spirit, and it's looking at how this thing has impacted. This is something I've been thinking about, and she's like, "Oh, she got me with it." But looking at how it's impacted women who the Sunday morning from the floor, from the podium was the only opportunity that they had.
Mm.
And what does that look like for the woman who knows that she's called, knows that ministry and the preaching ministry or missionary work or whatever it may be is what God has called her to and purposed her to, and she hasn't had the doors or the opportunities to exercise that calling and work in that calling and that gifting. So when we talk about how it's impacted cultural norms, oh man, there's so many layers and levels to it, and I don't want to give it all away tonight, but it's so many layers and levels to it.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we want folks to come out, and that's and actually, um, that's just such a powerful perspective to come from, because where the church kind of was, and then I mean even to this day, even though we're in 2021, women are still having to push and push and push to have their voice heard in the church. And my father was an elder as well, the pastor too, and I used to tell him, who are you to tell God who he calls? Who are you?
Come
You
on.
don't, I mean, because he tell me I was going to be a preacher. I'm be like, no, you don't get to tell me that. That has to come from God. But who are we as men to tell? And I get it. The word says it in a different way, but to me, it says he made some, he said he called some to be pastors, some preachers, some evangelists. I don't think anywhere in those words said women of this and men of that. I'm sorry, that's the word that I read. you know,
Look,
so that dynamic to it, I think that's an excellent topic that you all are going to be delving into. I can only imagine that conversation is going to be really deep. So, Ronald Keisha, I want to ask you, how did you come up? What made you think of doing these coffee chats as all for all 3 days, and then even these topics that you're going to be discussing in those coffee chats?
I think so one, like, I'm just a fangirl of like so many people. And so when I put together the program for these symposiums and summits, like, it's really like me getting to have conversation with people that I just truly admire. And so when you look at like the program, like almost all the people on there, I would say like 99%, like it's that 1% that I don't really know, but like they had a great topic presentation. I was like, all right, we're going to take a chance. But 99% of the people are people whose ministries I just really admire. And so when I was looking at, you know, what are some opportunities for conversation? Because we have the keynotes and we have the breakouts and we have the author showcases, but there wasn't anything where there was really kind of like a panel or a discussion. And so the day was already kind of filled, but I was like, hey, why don't we do like maybe a coffee chat where we start the morning off with these conversations? And then and it's like, and it's so crazy the way God works. Like some people, like y'all believe that, you know, God speaks to you. Some people don't. God speaks to me. And so when I came up with these topics, like I just was like, oh, you know, this would be a great question. Like, these are the people I want to invite. And I didn't even realize like how the questions aligned with the keynote speaker that was coming after them. So like the first day we're talking about how Christian education can be used to combat racism. And we have Jennifer Maxwell Watley coming on right after that. The second day, we're talking about how the church can build political power. And then we have Dr. Otis Moss coming on after that. And then this conversation, we're talking about women's voices like being amplified, affecting cultural norms. And then we have Dr. Pamela Lightsey coming on after that. So it wasn't until like I kind of like put the schedule together, I was like, wow, like this actually like flows together, because it was just like, oh, these are some great conversations. Let's like, you know, put it together. And so yeah, so it's kind of, you know, starting a conversation and then having our keynotes to kind of further it. And then we go into the breakout sessions to get more meat on the bone. So, you know, it's God being intentional. I wish I could take credit for it, but, you know, a lot of it is just, you know, God saying like, all right, this is what I want you to do. And me just being obedient. And these two ladies, like Dr. Alexander and Dr. Farrell, like my only prayer is that we can finish in like under an hour, because there's like other stuff to do. Because I know like once like we start going and just like the conversation, like it's going to be so juicy that I'm just praying that we can finish in under an hour. And I already know there's going to be like a part 2, 3, and probably 4, 5, and 6, with us bringing in some other women's voices to continue the conversation, because I don't feel like we have stopped to take inventory of the moment. And I remember when COVID first hit, and one of the I think sparks was around Good Friday was coming up. And so traditionally in the church space, the pastor invites people to the Good Friday. But because we were in a virtual, there were so many women who were like, yo, like I'm doing my own Good Friday service and I'm inviting my girlfriends, I'm inviting other women preachers. And that's when people's eyes really started to open up to like this whole womanist theology. And like Dr. Alexander said, like, we've been fighting this fight for some years. So to see in the past year, we've taken giant strides based on where we had like the slow crawl, walk, fight that we've been doing over the past years. And then in the past 1 year, because of this virtual space and so many women recognizing like I have a voice and there are other women like me with a voice, let's come together and put together programming and conversations and topics. So yeah, I'm excited. I don't even know if that answered your question, but that's just what was
absolutely. No, absolutely. It really does about the coffee chats, and I think that's important too. When you talked about that, because the coffee chats will actually set the tone, and you did that last year. Where the keynotes set the tone for the whole day. Last year, and I love the way that you have it this year, where you have the coffee chats. Those are going to set the tone for the whole rest of that day, that particular day, and everything like that. And I do think it is important that women's voices do get heard, be heard in the church. I can't even begin to explain or to express the importance of that. And what that actually means. And I'm gonna ask both of y'all. But before I do that, Elder, I want you to actually talk a little bit about you. I know both you and Lakesha are very humble, but I want you to talk about the projects that you have going. I know you just finished your your doctorate and everything like that, but I know you have other books and things that you've done. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. Then I'm gonna ask both of y'all: does the woman, in reference to rethinking church, does the woman now, is she beginning to have her voice heard in the church? So I'm gonna let you do yours, and then we'll get into that real quick. Okay.
Okay. So I have been just absolutely blessed and honored over the last couple of years. And if y'all hear some background noise, it just started pouring, raining. So,
Mm.
but but I have been blessed and honored over the past year to be a contributing author to two books. Dr. Kimberly Ellison is the founder and owner of Sparkle Publishing, and she's someone that I've got to. If y'all haven't been connected, I got to connect y'all. Like that just has to happen. But because great minds should be in the room together, like that just has to happen. But I have had the blessing to be a contributing author to two books through her publishing company, and so the first one was Promise, a global women's devotional, and so this one is 130 women came together worldwide and
Wow.
contributed. Yes, worldwide. We touched,
Ooh.
I believe, 6 to 7 different countries, if I'm not mistaken, but came together worldwide and contributed to this devotional. And it is sectioned into promises that God has made to each of us individually, promised scriptures that we had to lean on in certain times and experiences of our lives. And so it's ministry related, it's business, it's marriage, it's death and grief, it is any and everything that you could possibly go through in life. There is something in here for you. And so I had the opportunity to contribute to that one based on an experience that I had in the career field and just really having to hold on and allowing God to fight my battles for me while I was quiet because the Lord knows. Yeah, that was a trying season for me. And so 130 phenomenal women. And then
Wow.
most recently, the early part of this year, I contributed to the second one anthology, I'm Speaking. And this one is rewritten rules of encouragement and affirmation for women disruptors. And so, of course, we know our beloved Vice President, Kamala Harris, she is infamous now for, hold on, I'm speaking. And so from that, so many things were birthed, of course, across
Wow.
the globe from women. Well, this book was one of those things that was birthed. And I really loved contributing to this one in particular because I got an opportunity to speak more so in my niche, talking to women who are accepting their calling in ministry, but not confident and comfortable in knowing how to do it. And so there are some contributing words of encouragement, affirmation that I give there. It doesn't matter if you're in heels, flats, pants, skirts, jeans, jersey, c-shirt. You go ahead and put on your go to meeting Sunday hat and dress. Those things are irrelevant when it comes to the calling and the anointing that God has placed on your life and what you're really purposed to do. So those are two things that I got a chance to contribute to. I'm proud of that work. Preachinginpurple.com is where you can go to purchase either or both of those. And I'm just excited about the things that God is going to allow me to do in the future. I'm looking into in my prayer time gaining my confidence to go ahead and write the title book Preaching in Purple and to share some experiences and some things from my God from almost 20 years of accepting my calling in the South in Texas. Praise God.
That is,
If you're from
ooh,
down here, you know that that's a lot. That's loaded. So
yeah.
yeah,
How in the world did she fit 130 women in one book?
listen, this thing. I don't know if you can see how.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Look, this this is serious business right here.
Yes.
And then not
Wow.
just the devotionals from each woman, but then you've got uh, pages with prompts for prayer, writing, and journaling. You've got notes pages. I mean, this has been a great tool for me personally,
Mm.
even in different seasons of my life. And these are some dynamic women that have endured some things, but they did it because they were standing on the promises of God. So I was honored to be a part of this amazing work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, Reverend Lakeisha, I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna start with you because I love the title of her book. I'm speaking. Now, coming from the perspective of rethinking church and how we rethink church with having women now starting to have their voices elevated, how does that speaking tie into, how do we tie that into rethinking church, and what women can expect coming to, women ministers, women entrepreneurs that will be attending the summit? How does that tie in, the women perspective tie into coming to the to the summit?
Well, for me, if anyone pays attention to the programming of Rethinking Church, you will see that there are a lot of women's voices featured. One thing that I'm intentional about is opening our summit with the voice of a strong woman, because I feel like in a lot of spaces that attempt to include women, we are often on the sidelines, or we're in the back, or we get to do the prayer, but very rarely are our voices prominent in those spaces. And so Rethinking Church is intentional about ensuring that the voices of women are prominent in those spaces. Now, that doesn't mean that we exclude men. It doesn't mean that we marginalize men, because men are still included, but we want to make sure that women's voices are prominent in those spaces, because our voices are the voices that are very rarely heard in the public spaces. Now, we're often the ones who are in the back room writing, doing the work, doing the administrative work, making sure that everybody stays on task. But when it comes to hearing our voices are rarely heard. So I'm very intentional about doing that, because I feel that as a woman in this space with the opportunity to create a platform for voices to be heard, I would be remiss if I did not ensure that other women's voices were not at the forefront in this work, because there are so many women who are doing the work. And like, I see flyers all the time, and it's just like, oh, we're having like this program, and it's like all men on the flyer, and it's like, so y'all can find one woman. And I'm not, and I do the same thing with artwork. So it's like, I'm not going to exclude men, but it has to be a balance, because in the kingdom there is balance. And I feel like, yes, sometimes like we do go, a little bit further in having more women, just because there are so many spaces where there are no women. So that, in my opinion, is how I balance the scale. So no, we're not going to have an equal number of men and women, because I'm attempting to balance the scale and to ensure that our voices are heard. And I'm unapologetic about that. And I think that that is something that people should want to hear more of. Like the Dr. Pamela Lightsey, her book is on being a queer womanist. And she was just like, what do you want me to talk about? And I was like, I don't care, because you being a queer a queer woman in the UMC church, like whatever you say, like we're listening. Because I think that so often, like, we have these experiences that we've learned from, just like Dr. Alexander is talking about pinning her story. Like, it's a part of our legacy to tell these stories, because future generations are going to look back and they're going to wonder, how did this change happen? How did, women step up? And so by us writing and speaking and memorializing these stories, like, it's going to help future generations. And one of the questions that my husband and I have been talking about is, what are we doing to impact women who are in their 20s that are accepting their call? How are we making space for younger women to enter into ministry? And so that's something that I've had to think about. So what am I doing for that 20-something-year-old woman who's trying to find her place in ministry? Are we creating space for her, or is it just space for mature women's voices? So I think that that's one of the reasons I love these conversations, because I'm always listening, and I'm always trying to figure out, like, what am I missing? What are we not doing? And how can we bridge that gap? How can we plug that hole? How can we make those spaces? So Dr. Alexander just doesn't know, but like, I have another project that I have in mind to work with her on, and Preaching in Purple, because there is so much work to be done. And for those of you who know me, like, this is not about me. Like, I'm always looking for a synergy, and how can the community that we're building with Rethinking Church be used to amplify the work that other people are doing. So yeah, Rethinking Church is definitely helping women who are speaking to have a place to speak.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that. You, and that's what I love about you is that you are constantly pushing the envelope. You're constantly making us rethink. You're making us as the church to rethink, but then as individuals, you're making us rethink that box that we want to put God in. You can't put him in that. He is not in a box. So who are we to try and say that it should be this way? Yeah, there has to be structure and discipline, because that is who God is. But within that structure and discipline, we also have to understand that God is trying to take us somewhere, and God is doing something. And in this 21st century, we've got to rethink, as you're saying. You're making us rethink. What is it about the church that the church needs to start, kind of understanding? Hey, that's those things that we used to do within the church can be turned and can be moved. Because here's my thing about God is always moving, and we have to be consistent in our moving with him, and we always have to be producing. That's my thing. God has created everything that he created, he created to produce. So we as the church have to say, what are we producing? Whether it's, he didn't just say man produce, he didn't just say woman produce, he said produce. That means both men and women, and we have to grow. We should always be constantly and consistently wanting to grow. And that's what I believe that people will get attending Rethinking Church. It will force you to grow. If you come to this summit thinking that you're just going to sit there and that you aren't going to grow, that isn't going to, it's going to challenge you, because there are going to be some things that you may or may not agree with the church, and that's fine. That's what it's there for. But it gives you the opportunity to just rethink. Wow, I've been doing this way for so long. I have to now adjust and rethink about how I'm seeing the church. And if that is women being in the pulpit, understanding what that looks like. What does that look like? What does that look like? There are gonna be some men I know that some and in the church. Yeah, I'm talking to y'all too, pastors and ministers and preachers, because I talk to y'all, so I know y'all got y'all heads stuck in one way. But that is not who God is. His word stays the same, but his means of what he does and what he will accomplish, we don't have control over. We don't have a say so in any of that. So that's what I love about what we're doing here, and the challenging aspect that you're giving to those that will be coming to reach to the summit. So those are just those are awesome things for people to just think about when it comes to registering, when it comes to come ready to think, come ready to rethink, come ready to understand that what you may expect, this isn't going to be your everyday ordinary summit. I promise you. With everything that we got going on for these 3 days, this is not going to be something that you readily see. So, two things, and then we're gonna be out of here, y'all. Reverend Lakesha, I'm gonna ask you first, and then I'm gonna come to you, Elder. I'm gonna ask you about um, ministry that impacts. And I know we got a little something something, with that name on it. But I want you to, one, talk about that, but then two, I want you to talk about what does ministry that impacts mean to you, and then Elder, I want you to answer that question too.
So, you know, y'all know me. Like, I don't really have a filter. I don't know how to sugarcoat things, so I just have to say it. So, like, I joined like the National Coalition of 100 Black Women about 3-4 years ago, and it's an advocacy organization. And one of the things that they said to us is, we don't do service project. We do projects that have impact. And that hit me like a hammer, because I thought about all the church programs that I had been to. And I was like, did anybody ever think about the impact that they were trying to have with these programs? Like, all the programs. And I was just like, what if the church, when we put together programs, when we did ministry, what if we started with the thought of, what is the impact that I want to create? what difference would that make in your congregations and in your communities? And so that's why you all will hear me say the same thing over and over again, is we are trying to have an impact in our congregations. And I always start with congregations, because if you're not feeding the people at home, you can't go out and feed the people in the street. And I think that too many of our churches, like, we're out here trying to, feed the homeless people under the bridge, when you have people in your congregation that's about to be evicted. You're trying to, start a food pantry, but you have people in your congregation that don't have food in their refrigerator. So often we're trying to go out and save the world when you haven't even saved the people who you have been called to shepherd. And then once those people are fed, and so people are always asking, how do I grow my church and how do I get more people to come? And sheep beget sheep. So when you're feeding your sheep, those sheep are going to go get other sheep. And if your sheep are not calling other sheep to come be in the pasture with them, it's probably because they're starving and they don't want anybody else to come and starve with them. So if we're truly serious about this thing called ministry, we got to think about, how do I impact the lives of the people that I have been called to serve first, and then let those people go and bring other people for me to serve. But too often we're almost like collectors of bodies. Like, we just want a whole bunch of people in the building, but we're not doing anything to edify or to feed those people. And then we wonder why they don't bring other people, why we got to have programs like frangelism, which I can never remember what frangelism even stands for. But if you got to tell people, bring your friends this week, bring your coworkers this week, if you got to prompt people to tell them like who to bring to church, and those people still don't bring anybody to church, you got to ask yourself, is what I'm serving good enough that somebody wants to invite somebody to come eat with them? So yeah, that's what ministry that impact.
I love it. I totally love it. Elder, you want to jump in on this? Because
Look,
that was powerful.
I'm just ready to sow my seed. Goodness, goodness. Um, I mean, Reverend Womack hit so many of
I
the
know that's
nails.
right.
Look, hit so many of the nails on the head. When you talk about ministry that impacts, absolutely, is what we're doing effective?
Mhm.
When we say that we have um, a target audience for our ministry, for our church, are we hitting that target? Are we impacting the lives of those people? Um, if I am intentional about it being a family church, does everything about us say that this is a family church? Do we have parameters on what kind of families can come? Do we have parameters on cultural and ethnic differences of those families? Do we have differences about same gender loving families? What does that look like and what does that mean? Are we doing effective ministry? If we say that we are a social justice ministry, that we are centered and focused on doing things that are supporting the rights of people and making sure that civil rights of people, well, what are we doing? Is it effective and is it impacting? Um, Reverend Womack said so many things when we talk about looking at ministry that impacts people on an individual level. Because yes, we want to grow the church. We want, we got a sanctuary that seats 1,000, but we only got 200 that's here every Sunday. How can we get the 1,000 packed? And how can we? And people got faced with some real life situations due to COVID to have to understand that your 200 won't stay if what you've been doing hasn't been in, effective
Mm-hmm.
and truly impacting their lives. So, there's this thing now where, oh, well, people are just not coming back because they've gotten comfortable being home. No, people are not coming back because they were trying to figure out how not to come back before the pandemic. They were trying
Woo.
to figure out before the pandemic
Mm,
how to politely slide away. But because
mm.
it wasn't effective for their lives, the words that were being preached, they weren't walking away with tangibles to say, this is something that I can apply to my life today and start seeing difference and change and manifestation. They weren't walking away feeling more lifted than when they came through the doors. So is the ministry effective? Look, Frangela, she took me back. It took me just, oh my God. Because yes, if I didn't invite people in person to come, no, I'm not going to share your webcast every Sunday. or on Wednesdays for Bible studies because I don't want them to watch it either. But we've got to deal because it's not impacting.
Mm.
Some folks are connected to places out of loyalty, out of obligation, out of familial connections, whatever the case may be. But this has given us, this pandemic has given a lot of people an opportunity to tune in to places that are feeding their souls and meeting their needs and actually
Mm.
doing ministry that impacts. They want to sow their tithe and their offering into a place where they can see that that tithe and offering is really going to benefit people's lives who need it. They want to spend their time listening to sermons where they can write down some tangible points and say, this is something I'm going to start implementing because I want to see the manifestation of God in my life. That's what people are looking for. And I think our millennial generation, and then of course, look, people always got something to say about us. But listen, we're going to keep it 100 and
Yes.
we're going to tell it like it is. If it's not something that is helpful, and they look at it, well, you're just looking for what you can get in and can't, and or what you can get out without putting anything in. Not true.
Not true.
We want to put in, but we're not going to waste our time.
Hmm.
And so, is
Mm.
it impactful? Meaning, is it effective? Is it benefiting me in a way where I can see the tangible good of what's happening? Can I take away some points from Sunday sermons, Wednesday night Bible study that I can implement in my life and see manifestation of it? And then, is there a way for me to be involved where I feel like I'm also being effective in ministry and impacting somebody else's life?
Yeah, and even beyond the Sunday service and the Wednesday Bible study, what are you doing as a church to be able to impact the communities that you are a part of? And I always think about when I think about this ministry that impacts. I always think of the story of the woman at the well and how Jesus impacted her in such a way. She goes back to to the village and she said, "Come see a man that told me about myself." That's impact. She was like, "Wait a minute, hold up. How you yeah, y'all need to come get this food that I just got because it will feed you like it fed me." And that's what ministry that impacts does. When you're impacting people in such a way that they want to go tell somebody, "Look, yeah, come over here because this is what I found here. This was so good that I want everybody to have a piece of what it was that I was able to receive and everything like that." So I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's so interesting to me that like the church is probably one of the only industries that does not want to do that level of self-reflection. Like it's what we are providing edifying to people. Yet we want to blame the people for not eating what we're giving them. Like every other industry, if their sales are down, if people stop coming, if the product isn't moving off the shelf, they say, yo, like, what are we doing? Like, why aren't, sales? Like, what happened? Do we need to change management? Do we need to change the packaging? Do we need to change the branding? We
Mhm.
are the only entity that will say, nah, like, it's something wrong with the people. Like, y'all just not buying. Wait, what?
Look,
Instead
look,
of looking inward to say, what can we do better?
Mm.
Not that, like you said, Leroy, not that the word of God changes, but what can we do to make the word of God appealing in a way that people are receptive or that they can apply it to their lives today? Instead of us doing that level of work, we're like, nah, it's something wrong with them young people. They just don't want to come to church. When young people, one, they got money, they just not giving you their money, and they got time, they're just not giving you their time, because they will volunteer at a nonprofit, they will donate to nonprofits, and they still love God, but they don't see the value in what many of our churches are serving. So it's not that they have an issue with God or that they're not spiritual or even religious. They just don't want to be a part of the foolishness that a lot of our churches are doing.
yep. I have a thought.
Mm.
I have a thought about that question that you raised of why the church struggles with doing self reflection.
Mm.
I have a thought. I have an opinion. This is my own. I believe that most of our churches are so pastor centered and pastor identity wrapped up that in order for me to do self reflection about what's going on in the church and the ministry, they take that and internalize that as it's saying something personal about them.
Mm,
Because there are so many churches
Mm.
and so many ministries that their entire identity is built around the pastor.
right.
So if things aren't going right, if things aren't flowing the way that they should be flowing based on the vision or the mission that the pastor put in place, they take that personally. That for me to have to reevaluate and me to reassess is there's something wrong with me. And I don't want to believe that there's something wrong with me. I don't want to believe that there's something wrong with what I keep saying we need to implement and that's going to be successful. No, I'm going to keep beating this same dead horse, and I'm going to no because we're going to see the positive out of this. This is not a bad idea that I had. We're going to see it come to fruition, and we're like, man of God, woman of God, no, it's
Yeah.
not about you. First of all, if you are in ministry of any kind and you think it's about you, get out.
Mm,
It's not
mm.
about you. It is not
Woo.
about your ideas. It is not about your missions, your visions, your goals. It is not about you. And so the moment that we lose that focus of God being the center, any kind of reflection, reevaluation, rethinking, reconsidering, restructuring, almost, I believe, feels like a personal attack.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that is what happens because a lot of times when you do start talking about change, like people take it personally. And it's like, it's not about, unless you've made it about you, it's not about you. If it's about creating an experience, then I mean, I would like to believe that because like we have all attained it and are continuing to strive toward it, our goal should be to find those people who don't have it and who are not striving toward it to help get them on the journey. And so if I have to be a little uncomfortable to make this group of people who are not quite there comfortable, then I should be willing to be uncomfortable for those people. But too often it's like we want to create spaces where it makes us feel good and it's the music that I like and it's the program that I want and it's the preaching style that I like, instead of looking around your community to say, well, who are the people that we have been called to serve and what are their needs? And how can we ensure that we are doing the things that will help them to be drawn to Christ? Now, I'm not one of those that's like about, the neon lights and all that. Like I'm traditional. So I'm going to the church with the altar because I need to put my knees down somewhere, as bad as they may be. But if you're in a community and you have a group of young people and that's what they need, you have to ask yourself, is your personal comfort more important than getting those young people to the place where they're able to worship? And I don't know the answer because that's different for every church, it's different for every community. But like Dr. Alexander said in the beginning, like you have to ask yourself, who do we want to serve? Who are we trying to impact? And you can't keep saying we want young people if you're not willing to adjust your ministry in the ways that young people want to be connected with, because young people, some of them want some different stuff than what we want. So if you keep saying that you want them, you got to ask yourself, am I willing to make the changes to get them? And if you're not, be honest about that and say, you know what? We want to cater to the baby boomers. We want to cater to the Gen X. Like, be honest about who you want to serve and serve those people really well.
Yeah.
Because there's another church that's going to do the lights and all that for the young people. Let them have that. Don't try to take pieces of what they're doing just to get the young people when you don't truly have a heart to serve that demographic.
So good.
And that is
Yeah.
so true. And one of the to me one of the key elements of being a leader, and I talk to men about this, all the time, is are you willing to make those decisions that you don't agree with? That's what leadership is. You making that decision to say, this isn't what I want, but I know it's the best thing for the church, or my church that I may be leading. It's the best thing for the family that I may be leading and everything like that. Are you willing to make those decisions? Because that's true leadership. It's easy to make something that you agree with to go along with what you agree with, but can you make that decision to say, you know what, like you were just saying, Reverend Keisha, about, hey, if if we want to be able to have the younger generation a part of our church so that our church can continue, then we're going to have to do things that we might not have been used to doing or comfortable doing, but it's something that we know that's going to bring that next generation along. So you have to be able to get in and the best way to be able to do that, to understand it, is talk to them. because they will tell you what they want, what they not just what they want, but what they need too. Understanding what they need and
Right,
having a grasp of those.
because we're the only group that'll be like, well, it was good enough for your grandmama, so it's got to be good enough for you. That's like Toyota saying, well, it was good enough for your grandparents to get to work, so why do we need to have an electric car? If it got them to work 30
Mm-hmm.
years ago, then let's just keep making the same car. Like, no one else does that but us. Like, if it was good enough 40 years ago, then it got to be good enough. Like, that makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's part of America's problem when it comes to the industries, the American industries. When you think of the car industry, American cars didn't want to change. They didn't want to change the way that they developed, that they design cars. And what happened? You had other countries that say, "Hey, we're gonna give you what you want. We're gonna make it smaller. We're gonna make it more compact." And as a result of it, that's where people started going to. So the church can take a lesson from that as well, to understand that yeah, we all want to sit back and say, well, this is what we did back in the day. I've said it. Well, I'm not one for like you. I'm not for the lights and flashing and all that. That's not me. I do know that there are people obviously in the congregation that like that want that. And if that's going to bring that's going to bring more people to Christ, then that's what we do. That's what we do to get them to be able to come in and know who God is and the great things that He is, that He has for us. I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Alexander, and then we're gonna finish up with Reverend Lakesha. And I'm a two-part question. Um, why should someone attend Rethinking Church virtual summit? And then what does Rethinking Church mean to you?
So I believe that everybody should be registering and attending Rethinking Church, the virtual summit, primarily because if you, by any stretch of the imagination, of any stretch of your reality, care about and have a heart and a soul and a passion for ministry, for church, and for it to have an impact beyond just who's in your pews. But if you really want to truly make an impact in your community, really want to understand the pulse and the heartbeat of what's happening beyond your local community, your local congregation, beyond your city, beyond your state, if you really want to have an understanding of what's happening in church and ministry and moving and be forward thinking, then you need to attend this conference. You need to go back and watch everything from last year, and then you need to be prepared for what's coming this year, because I promise you, you will be stretched in wonderful ways. You will grow. You will be oh, motivated to go back and look at what you've been doing and how it can become more effective and impactful. So that's why everybody should be attending. As far as what Rethink Church means to me, rethinking church for me means literally having the courage to reconsider, to restructure, to remodel. It is having the courage to constantly look at what we're doing and ask ourselves the hard questions of, is this effective? If it is, how can we continue winning in that lane and be forward thinking? And if it's not, then how can we take the tools and all of the things that we're learning about what is happening in ministry across the board right now? How can we take those tools and make what we're doing better, and better being more effective and more impactful? And so that's what it means to me, more so about having the courage to do it.
Yeah.
Keisha, you want to close this out?
Yeah, and I just wow. Those comments just like meant so much, because I think that courage is definitely something that we have to summon, because we are in a time where, so for those of you who follow me on Facebook, y'all know, like, I was going off last week. Like, I got some news about some stuff that was happening in the church, and it just disturbed my soul. Like, I was just bothered. And people were just like, oh my goodness, like, I can't believe you're saying those things. And my thought was, at some point, we have to have the courage to say what needs to be said, because the reality is the people who are on the outside looking in think that we are foolish. because they see the mess. And I use the analogy, it's like somebody coming to your house and you have a rug with a mound of dirt under it. And they're like, yo, like, there's some dirt under that rug. And you're like, nah, like everything is good. They see the mess. And we keep saying there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. And it's not that people want the church to be perfect, but they want the church to strive for perfection. And that's what we should be doing every day. And that's what I say, like, I'm not perfect, but every day I wake up and I'm like, Lord, help me to sin as little as possible. Like, I know that I'm going to sin, but help me to do it as little as possible. And when people see the church being courageous enough to admit our faults and to say that we're not perfect people, but we're working on being better, that we're not going to allow foolishness in the church. When we call that stuff out, it draws people to us, because I had so many people inbox me and they're just like, thank you for saying that. And then they start telling me about stuff that they're dealing with in their church that they can't say anything about. And I'm like, I don't understand how you paying money to an institution that you feel like you can't speak out about. Like, that becomes problematic, that we are so almost like, it's almost like a colonizer situation. Like, the church has colonized the people to the point where the people are afraid and they're in bondage and they can't speak out about the things that they see going wrong, but they feel like they have to continue to support and pay into, even though they don't believe, and they're getting weary and they're getting worn down. And at some point, we as the people have to be the ones. And that's why, if you guys notice, like, I don't focus on pastors. I don't focus on, oh, the pastor. The people need to come. And the people need to support the pastor's vision, but you also have to understand that God has placed a calling upon your life. And at the end of the day, when you get to heaven, which is what I hope we're all working toward, God is not going to ask, what did your pastor do? God is not going to ask, what did the associate minister do? God is going to want to know, what did you do with the calling that was placed on the inside of you? And when we each are committed to living out our calling and to doing our part, then the church will start to shift. Because then you will no longer tolerate foolishness in your church. You will no longer tolerate foolish leaders. Because you will say, we have a new standard. And we're doing this for the glory of God. None of this is about us. And that's what I love about all the people who are involved in Rethinking Church. Like, it's not ego driven. It's people who are focused on serving and who have a heart for God's people. And they want to share, because we want you all to be empowered, to have the courage, and then to have the ideas and the resources. So you can't go back to your church like, okay, we're going to make all these changes, but you don't have any idea of what the changes are and what that looks like. And if we need help, who can help us? You have the resources and the tools to go back and say, there's a different way that we can do this. And this is where we start. This is who can help us. But we can't just keep relying on the pastor for the vision, because as long as we're only looking toward the head, and pastors are human, they're going to make mistakes. And when you see the problem, but you don't have a solution, you're not going to your pastor like, yo, like, we need to get more young people. And I saw this presentation. This is some of the things that we can do. Your pastor will appreciate that, because they don't have all the answers. And when all you do is bring them problems, and all you do is bring them issues, and you don't ever bring them any solutions, you're not helping the situation. So if you're one of those people where you're just like, I know that my church can do better, I know my ministry can be better, I'm going to connect with some like-minded people. To me, like, that's the biggest benefit that came out of last year, is seeing all the people who made connections. And now, like, on my friends list, I see people who are connected that I know met at the summit last year. Build community with other people who think like you do and who are going to push you and support you to do ministry better. So that's my pitch. Like, I have done officially all that I can do to put together a program that should be appealing to people who want to rethink church. At this point, it's up to us to promote it, to get people to come and be a part of it, to join our community. And, you know, each one of us will do our part to try to make a difference in our local church and in our community. And when you have, you know, 1,000 people each doing their little part, it adds up to something so much greater than if you just look at this one person, because everybody thinks like somebody's coming to save us and to fix it. There's not. We each have to do our one little part. And when we all start doing our one little part, we'll start to see that shift in culture and that shift in society that we keep waiting for and looking for.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna leave it right there because if you want, and I'll say this, if you want to be enlightened, if you want to be empowered, and you want to be impacted, which is to enlighten someone is to teach them something. To empower someone is to equip them with something, and to impact them in such a way that they want to do something. You will get that at the Rethinking Church Virtual Summit. That's the foundational pieces of JNF Enterprises, my company, because I saw what Jesus' ministry did.
Mm-hmm.
His ministry enlightened, empowered, and impact. There was only two people that I can think of in the Bible that Jesus did not impact. That was the man that said, "What must I do to be saved?" Jesus said, "Sell everything that you got, turn it all over." He was like, I can't do that. And he walked away. And then the two thieves that were on the cross with him, one said, "If you are who you say you are, then get us down from here." It was all about him, his selfishness. But the other one said, "You have done nothing wrong. Remember me in your kingdom." And Jesus told him, "From this day forward, you will be with me in paradise." Those were the only two that Jesus didn't impact in such a way that they changed who they were. But he even the thief on the cross, the second thief on the cross, that said, "Just remember me in your kingdom." He even impacted to his last breath that he took someone, he saved someone on the cross when he himself was dying. That's impact. That's ministry, that impact. So all I'm gonna say is I see y'all at the summit, July 14th, 15th, and 16th. Y'all get as Bishop T.D. Jake says, get ready, get ready, get ready. Because this is about to be just something I promise you, and I say this all the time, you will be better after this summit than you were before you came to this summit. I promise you. You will come away from this summit with that. If not, trust me, y'all can come get me personally because I promise you, you will be better. So, Dr. Alexander, thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. This conversation, this conversation was just phenomenal. Reverend Lucretia, you already know. I love what you're doing. I love the summit and seeing how it is growing. And I mean, it is just from last year to this year anticipation, and I know it's going to be even bigger, better, and greater. So y'all go register right now. We'll make sure that y'all have the link in there so you can go register to the summit because we want to see you all next week, July 14th, 15th, and 16th. My name is Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder, and I'll see y'all at the summit.